What a weekend, college football-wise. We previewed it a little bit last week. This week, we got to pay that off. And we'll start off with the biggest game in college football in the regular season, which for those of you that don't know, that includes the championship games of the conferences. In the last 7 years, Alabama and Georgia played in the SEC championship game, and Alabama won the game, almost gifted the game. Georgia had a pretty good lead. Jalen Hurts came in for Tua Tagovailoa because Tagovailoa hurt his ankle, sprained his ankle. Jalen Hurts came in, same guy that was replaced last year at halftime in the national championship game in the same stadium between the same two teams. He comes in, scores 2 late touchdowns. Alabama wins with an assist that you're going to see later in Wambulance from the Georgia head coach. All right, that's what's called a tease. Next up is Clemson and their effort against Pitt in the ACC championship game. It was about as dominant as you'd expect. Early on, it was kind of close. Pitt did a really nice job, but it was clearly a case of a whole lot of talent and not quite enough talent. Clemson finishes number 2 in the country, and in the playoffs, they'll be facing Notre Dame. Next up on the championship list from the past weekend is Ohio State, who was trying to get into the playoff. A little bit too little, too late. Too bad of a loss to Purdue earlier in the year. But in this game, it was close for a while, but Ohio State piled on some style points at the end, but it wasn't enough to be the difference maker to get them into the playoffs, so they'll be playing in the Rose Bowl. Next up on our list of hits is the game with Oklahoma and Texas, the rematch. Texas beat Oklahoma 48-45 in the Red River Shootout down in Texas they have every year. And this year in the Big 12 Championship, OU was just the better team. Close for a while, but like some of these other games, OU pulled away, and OU got that 4th spot in the playoff list. Our next conference championship game, which I don't know how many people saw this Friday night. It was a defensive game. So having said that, probably people turned it off because there weren't a gazillion points. But Washington wins the Pac-12, finishes it in this game, winning 10-3, and finished the season with a game in the Rose Bowl. This is a tough, physical team, and Utah just lost too much talent on the offensive side of the ball to play in this kind of a game. They lost their starting quarterback and their starting running back in the last couple of weeks, and that was really a big difference maker in facing a team like Washington. Next up on the championship parade is a game that I really enjoyed, UCF and Memphis, the American championship game, which was down at UCF. Memphis was ahead 21-7 early in this game, and then UCF just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Congratulations to UCF. They didn't have Mackenzie Milton, their star quarterback. He dislocated his knee, had surgery last week, had his blood flow and nerve sort of restored in that leg. Hasn't had the knee surgery yet. But in this game, it was just UCF doing UCF stuff in an American game. I don't confuse their talent level with Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or Clemson or any of the above. But great game by them, and I think they're going to be a tough out in the Fiesta Bowl for LSU. Next up in the bowl parade is what happened out in the beautiful Mountain West on the blue carpet, in the snow, in the cold, a little bit of ice, low-scoring game, defensive effort. Fresno State wins in overtime. First period of overtime, Boise State kicked the field goal. It was 16-13, walk-off touchdown by Fresno State's the big difference maker. And congratulations to Fresno State and specifically their head coach, Jeff Tedford, who is one hell of a football coach. And not saying that Fresno State's not a big job, but I'm surprised one of these conferences and teams in the Power 5 doesn't pick up a Jeff Tedford. Next up on the championship parade is going to be what happened in the MAC. You had Buffalo, hugely talented, had gone through the regular season at 10-2, facing Northern Illinois. Buffalo just didn't have enough. Northern Illinois kicks a field goal at the end, and they win that game. Congratulations to Northern Illinois, and what a fantastic way to finish off their season. That was a fun game if you didn't see it. That, again, was like the Pac-12. That was on Friday night. Next up on the championship run here, we're getting towards the end. We've got UAB and Middle Tennessee. And if you didn't see this, you missed a great feel-good story. In the football world, that is. Middle Tennessee, good story unto themselves. UAB, 2 years ago, they didn't have football. I'm not talking about they weren't very good. They didn't have a football program. They brought it back. Last year, in their first trip into it, they won. They won. They had a great winning record. They went to a bowl game. But this year, they win the conference, and fantastic. Good on them. Bill Clark and company. And Bill Clark, the head coach, got a contract extension. All right, so next up on the championship, remember, we got a bunch of them. There's 10 different games. Appalachian State, and against, now the team you got to call Louisiana. I'm as guilty as anybody else. I always add the Lafayette. Well, it's not Louisiana Lafayette anymore. It's Louisiana. Well, it's always been Appalachian State or App State, and App State won this game pretty easily, 30-19 in the Sun Belt Conference.